What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Around the Rim NBA DFS show. I'm your host, Mangone. I'm back with JSU. I think the sound works. I see second time's a charm from our producer in chat. I think things are going pretty well here. JSU, how about you? How are things going over there? We got some breaking news, so maybe the show went down so we could talk about the news. So how about you tell people what kind of happened while we were talking on air and nothing was going on?
Yeah. So, sorry about the, audio issue, but we got that fixed now. And in perfect timing, we got news to talk about this first game where, Kyle Lowry is out, Siakam out, Van Fleet out, and OG and Serge doubtful. So, I just chalked that up as they're probably out. I would assume, too, that Gasol doesn't see many minutes, even if he's in. He might not even play. Like, who knows? Like, it just seems like they're literally resting their main. Remember, the Raptors play like 7-8 guys. Like, they play a very tight rotation. So they're literally resting like their main five guys or so, 6 guys. So, I expect a lot of these younger guys to get run, and we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll definitely dive in and talk about it. Before we kind of dive into that game, JSU, give people like the landscape of the slate. Like, how do you approach this wild slate? Do you lock in the value that's early? Do you wait later on for other value? Yesterday we saw the Pelicans, right? How we knew that there was going to possibly be value later, and there wasn't. It absolutely crushed. So break that down for the people. How are you kind of handling these types of slates?
Yeah, man, and I'm so frustrated because, like, the Pels news, like, I knew that there was a chance that we could get news that, like, something like that, like Lonzo wouldn't play. And then for some reason they didn't play each one more at all, which I did not see happening at all. But I was telling people in chat, like right when we got the news, like, don't focus on the Magic, focus on the Pels. Like the Pels cheap guys are what you want to play, like not the Magic. So, I hope some people did, had some spots left. I unfortunately only had one spot left in 2 of my 3 lineups. So I can only swap out for one of these guys. I luckily got Alexander Walker in. I would have played both Frank Jackson and Alexander Walker if I had the spots. I just didn't have the spots. Or Josh Hart. I just didn't have the money for Hart. That was a problem there. But, it's just the Pels news was huge. Hopefully someone, jumped on that. But this is interesting. This slate, at first, so early in the morning, I'm thinking, maybe we stay away from this first game, because we might get news about the next 2 or 3 games later in the day, whereas I can kind of maneuver my lineups. But now with all these Raptors, like 100% pretty much sitting, these Raptors are going to be very good plays because they only have so many bodies. I think they're going to give their young guys a shot to really play good minutes. And that's why you see all of these guys playing all of these guys sitting and not playing limited minutes. It's because the Raptors are going to do the same thing. They're going to run a tight rotation with their young guys. They want to see these young guys play. Matt Thomas. They want to see Bouchard keep playing. He's been playing well. Terence Davis. I think, a couple other guys. But, like, they want to see these guys play. And I think on this slate, as a general whole, like, picture, you have to think that there's going to be other teams that go this same route. We might not get that news, though, until later. And so that's the thing. Like, who knows? The Clippers might end up resting all their guys, like Kawhi and PG. And then we get, like, Terrence Mann and other guys that normally don't really get off the bench, right? But we get to kind of see them. So it's definitely an edge if you've kind of researched and know these players that are on the end of the bench pretty well. If you don't, definitely lean on, like Discord, and like I'm in Discord, AP, Mangone's always in Discord, like Tony, definitely lean on us because we at least we've seen these guys play even in limited minutes. We've seen them play. So we kind of have an idea of like who's decent and who's not. Right.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention too, if you're kind of like building lineups, right? Let's say you're trying to decide how do you approach the early value, right? Well, you have to look at that value, JSU, and be like, well, what value can I have later? Don't just be like, oh, let me fade this and wait for value later. Try and figure out what's the value I'm looking for later, and is that value as good as the value that we're going to have now? That's super important. On top of that, one last thing, if you look at the like Clippers, right? Let's say the Clippers, let's say they sit Kawhi Leonard, and then you have all this money in the world, and then it's like you're out of guys to play. You probably already have Harden in your lineup, I'm assuming at that point. So you just when you're deciding to play early players, try and think about what can happen later. And if you're not going to play an early guy who's a really good play, figure out what you're trying to get later is what I'm kind of getting at.
Yeah, and I talk about this all the time in chat when I talk about, kind of know what your options are to swap to. So like I talk about it all the time as like a 2v2, right? If a guy ends up being out and you have more money to spend, right? A lot of times on slates, you end up spending up at another position, right? And it upgrades a value. And if that upgrade is good, then that 2v2 swap is what you're going to do. On this slate, if all these guys end up being out, that you're going to end up leaving money on the table because there's really nowhere you're going to be able to upgrade, right? Like there's not many spend ups you're going to have on this slate besides Harden, who we assume is going to play, because of just the way he is. Like if he plays, he's going to play like 25 minutes at least, and in 25 minutes you're going to want those points, right? Because I mean, even in 25 minutes, would you rather James Harden for 25 or Tyler Hero or any of these guys for 35? Like, honestly, like, even though I think Tyler Hero's a great play today, I still would rather James Harden, right?
Yeah. And listen, I'll say this one last tip I'll give, because I had a friend, he was playing the showdown slate, right? He played the Wizards Celtics slate. And if you remember, JSU, that Wizards Celtics slate, the Celtics were all rolled out earlier. I had a buddy who was getting head-to-heads against people that had Jason Tatum like in the captain spot, and he was out the night before. If you right now are just sitting at your computer watching, head on and play like some showdown, like head-to-heads, or playing some cash games there. There's going to be some dead lineups. Even in GPPs, there'll be tons of dead lineups. Showing that big GPP, there'll be people playing guys that are out in this Raptors game. So please, like, they take a shot on that. And listen, people might play Jokic if he's in, and Jokic might not be worth it, right? You never know. So let's dive in, though. Let's keep talking about this, whole situation. So on the Raptors side, JSU, all those guys are out. Give me who are the best plays now? Like, who are the guys you're really looking at? Boucher's the first guy who popped in my head. I said he's probably one of the better ones. Terrence Davis is probably a really strong value. Those are like my 1A and 1B that came to my mind. How about you?
Okay, so on this slate too, we got to think about Norman Powell is going to be a question that we get. He's going to be a very popular question that we get today. So in my opinion, a guy like Norman Powell, obviously he's probably the best player that's probably not going to rest today. But is he going to see 25 to 28 minutes like he's been seeing? I don't really know on this slate, because he's a guy who's in their normal rotation. We talk about the fact that they have a 7 to 8 man really rotation. It's very tight. He's like the only guy, him and Gasol are the only two guys that aren't ruled out right now or doubtful that are in that rotation. So like the main rotation where they see decent minutes. So I just don't know if he runs out there. Like, I do think if he plays, he probably starts, but I would much prefer a Matt Thomas. I think you see another Matt Thomas game like against Milwaukee where he's playing 30 plus minutes, where if I can lock in that 30 plus minutes, I don't mind Matt Thomas. He's a shooter. He's a dead eye shooter. Like, he's not going to do much else, but he can shoot the ball and he's going to chuck if all these guys are out. So I don't mind Matt Thomas, but I think Terrence Davis and Boucher are the most talented guys, if that makes sense. So if you want like the two most talented players on the roster, I think it's Davis and Boucher. People are going to see that Terrence Davis, he only played 16 minutes against Milwaukee where they had some guys out. But remember, he was in foul trouble. He's actually fouled out the last 2 games. So, I mean, he does have that can worry you a little bit. But if he's not in foul trouble, I mean, I think he's a really strong play today. I like him. I think it's Boucher 1 because clearly he's very talented as a big. And then it'd be Terrence Davis and Matt Thomas. And then I'll throw in RHJ. Like, again, he saw 26 and 25 minutes his last 2 games, and now all these guys are pretty much out. So if he's getting 25 minutes, I don't mind him on this slate either.
Yeah, so I'm trying to look at the active roster and like figure out who are the guys like left. So Stanley Johnson, he got run the other day, right? He'll be someone that gets run. I believe they said what's his name is out. Brissett is out, so you don't have to worry about him. He's another guy that's not like part of it. McCall is out. Anobi's doubtful. Ibaka doubtful. The one guy I'll mention that I saw the beat writer said, this was in the tweet. He added at the end of the tweet, he said, who's out for the Nuggets too. He said, Barton, and Harrison, Kankar, they're out for the Nuggets. But he also said at the bottom, he said, Paul Watson season. So he didn't use SZN like we do, JSU, in the DFS community, but he is saying Paul Watson's going to get run. I don't know much about him. Do you think this is going to be a guy that we should look to play? Again, this is the beat writer tweeting it out. I don't know if he's going to go for 40 minutes. I think a Matt Thomas, I think a Terence Davis, and a Chris Buescher are better plays. But what do you think of the beat writer kind of tweeting that out?
So this makes me not like Norman Powell even more, because if this is the case, I don't see this affecting Matt Thomas and Davis from the guard spot. I see it more affecting Powell. And maybe maybe he's not out. Maybe he plays a little, but maybe they just, after the first half, they don't play him again, like we've seen teams do. And this Paul Watson gets run in the second half. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't think I'm going to play Paul Watson. I don't think you have to. But if you were, for whatever reason, if you were running 150 lineups out tonight, you could play Paul Watson. It seems like it would make sense for them to give the guys that really have never come off the bench that much some runs. So it would make some sense. Paul Watson did play 21 minutes against Milwaukee too, just to say, like, he did play a little bit in that game. But how
was he in the 21 minutes? Was he like a good producer or?
Yeah, he didn't. He was like a half fantasy point per minute guy. And he was like, I watched that game. Like, I watched that whole game. I saw him play. He wasn't, again, it wasn't anything special. Like, I think Terrence Davis is way more talented than he is. I'd prefer Matt Thomas. And again, the price isn't an issue, right? We have the salary, so you can play whoever you like. Like, if you like a certain guy, it's not like we can't get any guy we want on the slate. So I think it's those 3, honestly, that I will prioritize from Toronto and not much else.
Yeah, and one last thing I'll say about Terence Davis before we kind of go on to the Nuggets side of the ball. If you're like looking at his game line, you're like, man, he wasn't great in the last game. He didn't get minutes. He was in foul trouble. He was a stone disaster. It was not a good situation for him. I expect him to bounce back. One thing I also heard, I was watching that game and I heard the coach say right during one of those like coach interviews they do at the end of the first quarter, he basically said like they wanted to get Terence Davis going and running because he's a guy that could see playoff minutes and stuff. They want to really, so he's definitely a very good play, and Boucher too.
He's one of those guys who, like, if for some reason, a Powell, a Van Fleet, a Lowry, if one of these guys had to miss a playoff game for whatever reason, he would be the guy that steps in. It wouldn't be Matt Thomas, I don't think. I think it would be Terence Davis first. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think they want to see what this kid can do in big minutes. So that's why I'm in on Terence Davis. I like it.
All right. Listen, so I think we broke that down pretty good. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Nuggets. Now, do you see them countering back? Are they going to roll Jokic out there and Michael Porter Jr.? I think that's like the one fear. I don't want to touch too many Nuggets. I don't think it's necessary at this time on the slate. Sure, Bol is fun, right? I just don't know how much run he's going to get, and there's so much value. Like, Bol is fun when you don't have all the value in the world. We have all the value in the world, so I'm staying away from the Nuggets. How about you?
Yeah, so the Nuggets are a team that I really don't want to mess with outside of we get some news that they sit Jokic and Millsap or, some of those older guys, maybe MPJ too, like some of the guys that are, important to their run in the playoffs. It would make sense that we get this news after the Raptors literally resting everybody. And this is the final game for them before the playoffs. I don't understand why they would roll out Jokic at all. So MPJ, maybe like because he's younger, maybe they let him play a little bit too. But like Jokic, Paul Millsap, even Murray coming off like the injury and stuff, why would you just risk it? Like why not just give them the rest? So if we get news that some of these bigs are out, I will 100% play some Bol. I'll say that right now. I think PJ Dozier would be in play if we get news that like Murray's out, and because then the guards are a lot weaker, and I think he's clearly a guy they want to give some minutes to and see what he can do. And he's got some talent. So I think those are the only two guys from Denver I'm interested in at all. If we don't get news that any of these guys are sitting and they're going to roll out Jokic for 24 minutes again or 25 minutes, whatever it was, then on the slate, I mean, he's in play, right? Like,
yeah, I will say Big T's in the chat and he said, imagine fading Bol today. Like, we just have so much value. I want to play him, right? And if you're like a Bol guy and like you've been waiting, you've been licking your chops to play him and you haven't done it yet, like go for it. Like this is the day probably, right? Like this is probably the best day for him.
I'll tell you right now, people thought it was his day last game and he only saw 10 minutes. He only got some run, a very limited run. And I was shocked that they didn't give him more run in the second half of that game. So people might be afraid to play Bol without any real news that any guys are sitting. And again, he's the one guy who I don't hate. I would like it if we got some news that somebody is sitting, one of the bigs, but I think he's my number one. If I had to rank them, it would be him 1, Dozier 2. I mean, Jokic is up there if he plays, but yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, and Big T said Bol, PJ, and Bates Diop are locks. That's a lot of locks, Big T. If you have a
Bates Diop, oh my god!
At least Tony, Big T, listen, if it's your source, right? Like he knows a Nuggets guy that's pretty close. If you got some good info for us, at least give us a wink or a nod in the chat. Tell us like you got the good info. But you're scaring me here with all three of those guys as locks. I mean that's a little extreme, but it sounds like Big T is game stacking this first game up. Any final thoughts on this game, JSU? Or you want to move on to the next one?
No, I mean this game. It makes me like this game though more than I did in the early morning. I'll say that. Like this game becomes very interesting to me.
Agree 100%. Let's move on to the next game. We got the Miami Heat. We got the Indiana Pacers. And there's guys in this game I'm going to like, right? We got all these guys sitting. Jay Crowder, Butler, Dragic. I'm missing one more. Bam. Yeah, that's the other one. We're going to want to load up on some of these guys. We're going to load up on Tyler Herro. He's one of the better players in the slate. I was trying to make him my background like you, but it wasn't working when I was trying to set it up. We got, Duncan Robinson, who's been lighting it up from downtown. He could obviously be in play on a site like DK where a 3-point bonus is always important. Kelly Olynyk, he has been so good, at the start of everything. He's kind of died down a bit, but now he's going to have all that usage back. I think jumping back on the Kelly Olynyk train is a really good idea. How about you? Even Kendrick Nunn, I think he's a great guy that can obviously get his run back. So there's a ton of Heat guys to like here, and I think I'm going to definitely load up on them. How about you?
Yeah, so one thing that I think is very important and actually very big news, and I don't know if people will look at it this way, but not just Dragic, but Gabe Vincent is out. Gabe Vincent is like their third string, maybe fourth string point guard because they run Iguodala at the point. But It seems like I would assume he's questionable right now, but Iguodala, I would assume they rest him. No reason to play him. So, and Gabe Vincent and Dragic are both out. This leaves their guard rotation as Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Herro, who can play with the ball in his hand. So Tyler Herro could play point guard if they wanted to. He's much better at like off ball, obviously, but he could play with the ball in his hands. And then Duncan Robinson, who's not really someone who can play. Like you can give him the ball and he can create a little bit more for like his own shot, but he's not someone you want to like run the point guard position. But he's a guard. So they have 3 guards that they have on their rotation right now that I see because I expect Iguodala to be out. And then Solomon Hill will play some 3. So I think that's really interesting. That's kind of telling that some of these guys are going to have to play big minutes. So I like getting 2 guards in this game. Duncan Robinson would be the one guy out of the 3 I think that I would worry about the most because I think that he will get more run in the playoffs. So if they were going to limit someone's minutes out of the 3, it would be him. But I still think he has to see, 25 minutes. And so he's in play. Kelly Olynyk is another guy who kind of worries me a little bit. Now he's going to play. I assume he starts. But I don't know how much run he's going to get. I think they run out. Like, I think they give Chris Silva in the second half a really strong look. I think Myers Leonard will get some run. I like Chris Silva. If Chris Silva starts, which I don't know if he will, but he might. If he does start, I do like him a lot today. I don't think people are going to play him. If he starts, people might play him, but I don't think people know who he is. And if let's say for some reason Kelly Olynyk comes off the bench because he normally does come off the bench in their rotation. If for some reason they decide to play Myers Leonard and Chris Silva as their bigs, like a lot of people are going to play Leonard over Silva. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but Leonard's a more known name. Silva's, in my opinion, a better fantasy producer. Most people won't know him, but again, I like Silva. He can rebound at a decent rate, and he's just a solid kind of backup that no one's going to play. But I like him today against this Indiana team who is also down. Like they're down Miles Turner. Goga is questionable. I don't know what's going to happen with him. So that's going to leave their bigs with TJ Leaf, I think, and then Jakar Sampson and Elias Johnson. So I don't mind some bigs. If you could tell me Kelly Olynyk, like sell me on Kelly Olynyk, like you think he's going to see 25 minutes?
So you're probably right. Like the more I'm thinking about it, like he might not get the run I'm hoping for and I want, right? Obviously the guards there, if you look at that guard position, right, they're just so like depleted. Like Herro's going to have to, play a ton, right? They're not just going to run like Duncan Robinson running the point to end the game, and they need to fill out some spots throughout the lineup. They could maybe go with the one thing I think you could see happen, JSU, is maybe you see some more double big lineups where you see like a Kelly Olynyk paired with a Chris Silva, because the Pacers could easily counter back with that. Both teams are kind of depleted on both sides. They don't really care about this game. So you could see maybe that happen, but I think you're right. And listen, if it's Myers Leonard or Chris Silva, give me Chris Silva all day over him. I think you're 1,000% right on that. So I like that we agree there. Chris Silva definitely going to be a strong play from that game. We got someone in the chat though, WV Hills. He's saying, JSU, get those likes up. So we got 203 people watching, 53 likes. Get them up for the people, JSU. This is your territory during the NBA show, so this is your job.
Oh yeah, this is 100% my job, and the people know. Like this show is free. You like this show and it's free right now. If you like that, it's free. Hit that thumbs up button. It helps us keep rolling this show out for free. Like, this show ain't going to stay free if we don't get those thumbs up. So hit that thumbs up button. We'll give some swag out. Like, we got 205 in the chat. Let's get to 125. I'm going to be kind today. Normally on these NBA shows, we like to get to 150. Get to 125. We'll get out some swag for you guys. So, hit that thumbs up button.
All right, 125 it is, and we'll give out some swag. And I'm repping the swag right now. I think you are too. I got the hat as well. So we're matching. We're twinning, as the kids say, or they said. I'm sure they don't say that anymore. But let's talk about this other game, or not this other game, the other side of the game. How do you want to approach the Pacers? There's opportunity here. You had a great call with Sumner, I believe, the other day, I think over Holiday, and the chat was very excited about that. I noticed. I was a sad 80% owned Holiday person in cash games. Everything else fit perfect, JSU. I had the nuts, but Aaron Holiday. So talk to me about this game. How are you nailing this one down?
Yeah, so I talked about Sumner on the last game they had against Houston, just because, Brogdon was out, and I knew for a fact that they'd been talking about this kid. Like I've heard, I don't know, it was beat reporters, and I knew I've heard the coach talk about how they want to get him some run. I remember when he got injured I think it was last year, he had a really bad injury, and they were talking about this kid last year, saying he's got a ton of potential and he's super talented, and the kid is talented. Like, again, if you notice how I look at, especially these guys towards the end of the bench, I play the guys who I think have the most talent. So sometimes that's not always the guys that get huge minutes. I sometimes will take the talent over maybe a few extra minutes if I know that a guy is just way more talented. And I didn't know what Sumner's minutes were going to be with Oladipo in, but I still thought like he was a large field GPP play, because in the back of my head, I really had a strong feeling that the coach wanted to see this kid play. So again, sometimes it's based off of feel. It's not always about, like the exact, like, oh, someone's projected higher. Like I got questions about someone being projected higher than someone else a couple times. And like for GPPs, like, I mean, Frazier was one of the guys, I think yesterday I was getting questions about, oh, what about Frazier? He's projected high, over DJ Wilson. I don't care about that. I've watched both these guys play. I know DJ Wilson's more talented than Frazier. I can just tell you that right now, like 100%. Did he get a ton of looks? No, not until the fourth quarter, where they literally pulled all their main guys and he got looks. That's what I was expecting to happen. Everyone thought like DJ Wilson, because he started, was going to smash in the first quarter, the second quarter. That's not why we played DJ Wilson. We played DJ Wilson because we knew in the second half the Bucks weren't going to play their starters that much, and DJ Wilson was going to take more shots and do more. And what happened in the fourth quarter? In the fourth quarter, he did pretty much everything he got, and he hit value. Like, he smashed value. Like, but people don't get that. And then they see, like, it's just, I hate I'm not a slave to the projection of a guy because a guy saw 27 minutes last game and we knew that was a fact. Like, I don't care about that sometimes. Sometimes I'll take talent over 5 extra minutes, right?
Yep. And listen, I was in the same boat. I played him on both my cash teams, JSU, and I sat there, and after the first half, I was like, I was obviously wasn't happy. Of course I want more points, but I said I didn't play him for this first hour. I played him for the last hour. So that was kind of my perspective on it, and he ended up getting there, and it was a good time. So I had no complaints. And one more thing to mention about the projections. Listen, I'm one that's a slave to projections too. Or you're not, but I definitely can be a slave to them.
Yeah, I'm definitely not.
this is not a time to be a slave to them, right? And the one thing I'll say is, like, if you ask anyone, how many minutes do you think Kawhi's going to play today? If anyone says they actually know, that they don't. Like, you know what I mean? And no one knows exactly what Doc Rivers is going to do. If you think that minutes projection is wrong, then you adjust the projection. It's all about the minutes. So when you're looking at a projection, you say, hey, that projection looks wrong. Look at the minutes and say, do I think it's those minutes? That's all it is. It's just simple math. So that's always something to do. If you ever think that a projection is off, check out the minutes and try and calculate, where you think they're all going to be distributed. Let's see. So anything else? Anything else you want to talk about here? I mean, what else you want to do with
so the Indiana side? I talked about so obviously, like, TJ McConnell. I mean, we didn't hit on him, but like, I think he's a fine play today. Like, there's nothing wrong with TJ McConnell. I think he sees like 18 to 22 minutes. Like, he most likely. I don't think they push him any more than that. But again, like, Sumner, to me, in this game specifically, I will prioritize, even though I think TJ's a better fantasy, just a little better fantasy value because he's always got the ball. I like both of them, but Sumner to me is more of like the GPP pivot off of McConnell. So I still think McConnell is like safer if this makes, I think Sumner's a good pivot off of him because I know people are going to be on him, and people will go back to Holiday, even though they burned him like 100%. And then the big situation, I think, when you look at it, if Goga is out, that brings Elias Johnson to me in play. I think he's a much better play than Jakar Sampson. First of all, I don't think Jakar Sampson's good. Second of all, I knew for a fact he was not going to get big minutes, even though he started. And yes, he played decent when he started in that game. Like, from a fantasy standpoint, he started out decent. But again, you got to know, like, again, who's good and who's not, and who the coach wants to see. Like, the coach wants to see the young guys. Jakar Sampson's been in the league. Like, we know what he is. They want to see what they don't know. They want to see the guys who are really stuck to the bench all the time.
All right, listen, I don't know what else to do here with this situation. Like, Goga, I worry about his minutes, right? That's the one problem. He's a great fantasy producer. If you told me he's playing 30 minutes, sure. But I want to see what obviously some sites are doing with him, or try and find out what minutes he's playing by maybe searching for some quotes, but I got nothing on it so far. One thing you did mention, you talk about playing a guy like TJ McConnell. JSU, how do we play TJ McConnell when there are a lot of good guards, right? He feels like he's kind of falling off of my list of guys I want. James Harden's already probably going to occupy a guard spot. It seems like that's going to be one of the decisions to be made. So I guess talk about the guard position in general. Like, is it a 4 guard night on a site like a DraftKings? And I guess talk about that a little bit, because I think that's part of construction we need to discuss.
Yes. So I do think it's a 4 guard night. No doubt. Like, if you tell me I can get so on DraftKings specifically, like Sumner and guys like Diallo, who we'll talk about in the next game, these guys have small forward eligibility. So you'll see them kind of when you look at my lineups, you'll see for sure them in my forward spots, most likely. So I'm going to definitely have as many guards as I can, because I feel pretty confident in some of these guards. And some of the bigs, like, I think there's a chance where some of these guys, even though I do like them, like there's a chance where Chris Silva only sees 20 minutes. Like, he doesn't get the big run that I think he could get, honestly. If Kelly Olynyk, they just really don't run him out that much, which I think is a possibility. So it all kind of depends on that, but I will for sure have 4 guards, I think. I think I will for sure have a guard in my util spot, if that's like the main question we're getting at.
Yeah, and that's a great call by you on Sumner, right? If you want to play him, please do not play him at your shooting guard or point guard or anything. Play him at your forward. Like, do not. That makes no sense. That's that guard spot's very valuable. So I want to stress that. And one thing I'll stress, real quick, hit that like. Obviously, we want to get to 125 so we can give away some swag. And one more thing I wanted to stress is I saw some people in Discord the other day saying that people need to make sure they get the order of their guys correct. Late swapping is so key. And I have seen it sometimes. People just putting like their point guard who starts the game at like 1 o'clock at the guard spot or the utility slot. Don't do that. Move that around. Make sure all your early guys are in like the point guard or shooting guard slot. That way you have the most flexibility. That's what you want to have. So make sure to do that, guys. That is super important. We can move on from this game. Let's go on to the next one, JSU. We got the Thunder. We have the Clippers. And listen, I was just kind of messing around my lineup now, and there was Sumner in there at the small forward just when I was looking at things, and I was like, the problem is we have all the salary in the world. And if you tell me Kawhi plays, listen, I want Kawhi over Sumner. Nothing against Sumner. He could obviously outscore him if Kawhi just plays one half and Sumner plays the whole thing and goes crazy. What are you doing with this Clippers situation? Because that's the most important thing I think to figure out right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. The Clippers, if you were to tell me that Kawhi and PG play 25 minutes, I mean, I think this is a slate where you could easily just play both of them. Honestly, if they're getting 25 minutes, I mean, they're going to outdo a lot of these younger guys who may see 30, but we don't know for a fact, right? Even though I like Sumner and I think he's super talented, if you were to tell me all 3 of those guys get 25 minutes and I could pick, obviously I'm going to take Kawhi and Paul George. Like, that's not a question, right? The question is, do they only see first half run? Do they see run at all? I mean, this game's at 6:30. We could easily get news at 5, 4, 4:30 that these guys end up being out or only play the first half. We've already seen Doc Rivers just pull their guys with random minutes restrictions that we don't know about. So honestly, it's another situation where I'm super uncomfortable with it. If they play, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are in play. Like, they just are. Even if they play a half, they're still in play. They're just, if we get news that they're only playing a half, though, I mean, I'll take the chance on some of my lineups and play, a Sumner over them and hope he sees 30 minutes and hope he can either do what they do in one half or outdo them, maybe. I mean, like, I don't know if that's a possibility, but, you never know.
Yeah, I did want to mention, too, like, so I just pulled up the Clippers lineup, right? And I'm looking on DraftKings just for flexibility. And even on FanDuel, like, this is the same thing, right? The small forward and shooting guard position, it's obviously tough. But if you look on DraftKings and you just look at this small forward position, let's say Kawhi and George are out and you have them in at your forward spots. Well, you can't get Lou Williams in your lineup because he's a guard if you're locked in on guards. I don't know if you are at that point, right? But you could be, right? So it's going to be tough to maybe get in some of these guys. The only guys who are forward eligible are JaMychal Green, Landry Shamit's already out. Rodney Magruder, you could put. It's just there's not a lot of forwards, so that's one of the issues. Amir Coffey, I guess maybe he could be a guy, but the guy that would obviously benefit the most, you could see really have a big game, JSU, is Lou Williams. I don't know if they're going to like ramp his minutes up to just get him back in decent shape, but I figured I'd ask you that question on Lou Will. How would you maybe approach him if those guys are out?
Yeah, I mean, if those guys are out, it would make sense if they don't rule Lou Will out with those guys, because I mean that's obviously a possibility too. But if he's not ruled out and the two other studs are ruled out, it would make sense that they say, oh, we're going to give him his normal 20 to 23 minutes just to get, because if that's the case, then they think he still needs to get in better game shape, right? If they rule him out, I think they're confident about his game shape. So that's why it's so important. Like the news is just so important, and we're not going to get this news, I don't think, before the first game lock. And it makes it a little difficult on this slate because, like you said, if all these guys are ruled out, I would have a little interest in a Terrence Mann or an Amir Coffey, maybe, but we just don't get that news. And I think the Clippers are honestly a stay away outside of like the two studs at the top because, like you said, I have guards that I want to prioritize. So I think I'm out on Lou Will. And, with the Raptors news especially, that kind of solidifies it in my opinion. So I think it's just a point where I'm just staying away from this side of the game outside of the two studs if they play.
All right, let's head on over to the Thunder side of the ball. Chris Paul's not playing, and that's fine. I just don't see anything really to love here. How much run is SGA going to get? How much run is Steven Adams going to get? I just don't think I touch the Thunder side of the ball. How about you?
Yeah, it's interesting. So after Chris Paul kind of saying how he wants to play and they finally get him. They probably had to force him to sit out. Like they probably just said no, you're sitting out at least one game in the bubble, like before the playoffs start. So this was probably already planned. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, how do they give SGA, Adams, Gallinari big minutes? Now, the one thing I will say with SGA specifically, no way they give Gallinari big minutes. They haven't been giving him big minutes this whole bubble, really. I mean, the most minutes he's seen was, I think, the second game against Denver where he saw 29 minutes. Besides that, I think it was 22 or 23 or something was the highest he got to. So no way they give Gallo big minutes. I don't think there's any way. Steven Adams has been battling injuries. It seems like. So even though he's right now, they say he's going to play, I can't see how they give him big minutes. The only thing I will say, though, is OKC is down Chris Paul, Dennis Schroeder. They really don't have a point guard outside of SGA. And SGA plays off ball a lot, but he can play the point guard. So it is interesting. They've got Devon Hall and they've got Devontae Burton. Burton is not a point guard. Devon Hall, I guess he can be run there, but I don't think he really is either. So it's just going to be interesting what they do. If I had to pick between the three of them, I think SGA sees the most minutes out of those three just because he's younger, right? Like he's younger. They can give him a little more run, especially with them being hurting at that position specifically. But I think Darius Baisley and Hamidou Diallo are my two favorite plays from this OKC side. I think they're the only two plays also that I'll be playing from this OKC side. So unless we get 100% news that SGA is going to play 25, 30 minutes, if they come out and say oh, he has to play 30 minutes because we just don't have any guards or we're down a ton of guards, then I'll be okay, SGA is in play for me. But if we don't get that news, then I'm probably out on everyone but Diallo and Baisley, who I think should see pretty good minutes with all these guys out.
Yeah, the one thing that's nice about them is they have that forward eligibility, right? So they obviously guys you can look at and get some exposure to. I still don't know how I'm handling this game, but we got people in the chat. They're saying it's Nader sneezing, not season. JSU sneezing. They're ripping on you a little bit, having fun.
Sneezing, yes.
And they got Baisley as a lock.
They know it's up in the NBA room, all right? That's what it is in the NBA room. It's season everywhere else when JSU's not around. It's sneezing when I'm around.
Yeah. But yeah, ultimately, I think you're pretty good on this side of the ball. I don't want to give any more input on it because I'm a little confused on the situation and don't know how to really approach it. So I'll take that knowledge and I'll try and figure it out later on, obviously, because we have that 6:30 slate. Let's go on to the next game. We have a 9 o'clock game. It's the Sixers. It's the Rockets. And I did want to mention, I just kind of saw some news flow line. It had Joel Embiid's name in it. And I said, I have to kind of check this out and see if there's anything good in there. And the one thing I saw in this article was Joel Embiid actually missed the last 2 scrimmages. They played on Tuesday, but he did not play in the scrimmages that they had. So that's obviously concerning, right? The only reason I could see them having him play is if they're like, listen, like you are not in like game shape, like you're not ready, and we need to just run you out there, and you need to get conditioned because you're about to play the Celtics and you're going to get crushed. That's the only way I could see them running him out there. I don't think they do. How about you?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think they run him out there. He also, besides the injury he got a couple games ago, he also got a little hand injury, I think, during the game last game when he played. He didn't play huge minutes, but I think he saw in the 20s, right? For minutes in that. Oh no, he didn't. He saw 14 minutes.
He got hurt. So he hurt his.
He got that hand injury. I know for a fact, but he was battling another injury before that. Correct?
Yes, but so this is what happened, JSU. I actually heard I heard them like cut right to the person. I turned my volume up my TV. I said, I got to hear what they're talking about Joel Embiid. And what they said about Embiid was the whole plan that night was to play him the first half. And in the second half, they were considering not playing him. They wanted to see how he was with the injury. But they said once that second hand issue popped up, they said, all right, we're done. Like, we're not messing around. So maybe because they like didn't mess around there, makes me think he just won't play this game. You know what I mean? If it was his conditioning was a problem, he would have been thrown out in scrimmages. They would have been like, okay, like you're going to scrimmage. You need to get in shape because we need you to carry. I'm assuming they don't play him, but I don't know. That's just kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think they don't play him. If they don't play him, we all know that everyone's going to want to pivot to Kylo Quinn because he smashed the last time Joel Embiid didn't play. I like Kylo Quinn. He's a pretty solid guy from a fantasy standpoint. We saw it last time out. I will say the one thing that does worry me a little with him is he was crushing in that game. They honestly couldn't take him out at certain points where I think they wanted to see the other kid, the younger kid, Norvel Pele or whatever his name is. But one problem too is if you watch the game, Pele got foul trouble early, which forced them to take him out earlier than they wanted to. No, like 100%, and they put O'Quinn back in. And then, like I said, O'Quinn was just smashing, and in the end, they put O'Quinn back in because I think they wanted him to get his triple double, and he just missed it. Honestly, that's why I think they put him back in. But I don't mind O'Quinn if Embiid sits. If Embiid sits, I think that other guys may sit too, right? Or only play the first half, like Horford and Harris. So I think it's a stay away from me outside of like one of these bigs, these younger bigs. I think Alec Burks is someone that people will talk about, but we got to remember Burks is going to be a major part of their rotation. He's like one of their main guys, either starting or coming off the bench, whatever they end up doing with them. But he's going to be very important because they're playing the Celtics in the first round, and the Celtics play small, and they're fast, and they're going to need Alec Burks in there to score, and they're going to play a little smaller, I think. So I think you see less Horford and more of like, Tobias at the 4, Alec Burks comes in, Korkmaz, these guys that can create or shoot because they're going to need it against Boston.
Oh yeah, actually, it's funny. I was looking on TweetDeck and I had just saw an article that popped up, and it was basically the beat writer said like Shake Milton needs to get his shooting touch back because he's been not good. So they're already talking about that basically. And
God, he's so bad. Oh, he's just terrible. He's not good.
I mean, he's definitely one of those like real, like you think at first he could be solid and then it just doesn't work out. So, he kind of reminds me of like an Ish Smith type in a way.
He smashed for like those few weeks in DFS a while back, and everyone was like, just, oh, this guy's really good. Like they got to play him more. And in this bubble, he has just been really bad, like so bad.
It's a small sample, but it also could have been the, he just had the fresh legs. Like the February fresh legs when that kind of kicks in. Guys are really tired, and one guy just comes in and crushes out of nowhere.
Yeah, but if that's the case, then he probably wasn't playing that much during the COVID thing. Like, I think you can tell the guys that stayed active and were working out and working really hard on their game. I'll bring up like Darius Baisley, I think is one guy, a young guy who I think stayed active. He's looked like he's always been in game shape right off the bat. And that dude looks really good. Like, I remember seeing him before the COVID, like playing a little bit. He did not look this good. Like, he definitely improved. And there's definitely some guys who you can point out to and say, oh, this guy, I don't remember him being this good. And like, he's just one that sticks out. But there's a few guys you could do that with.
Oh yeah, no doubt there. Let's see. Let's move on from let's kind of move on from the Sixers, right? I don't think you have anything else to say, JSU. Not much else to talk about. Let's go to the Rockets because that's there's a lot going on there that we need to obviously discuss. You know, they always play their guys, right? They always play in minutes. But this is a little bit different situation. It's the last game of the season, and Russell Westbrook, he's out, right? They can't lose another guy. So in the back of your mind, you're like, man, how much Harden am I getting? I think because of the structure of the slate, you just capture the raw points. That's it. You don't even think about it. I think you put him on every team. That's my personal opinion. How about you?
Yeah, so before we got on the show, I was saying Mangone was talking about Harden. I said to Mangone, I said, you know, I know Harden's crazy. He just wants to play. Like, if he's playing in the game, he wants to play. He doesn't want to like play for a little and then just sit on the bench. We all know that. Do I think he sees like 35 minutes? No. Do I think he sees like 25 if he plays? Yes, I think 25 is probably the limit he gets. Maybe they do the first half thing with him, but I can't see him even letting him do that. Like, if he plays, I think he plays like 25. Because that guy's just, he wants to be on the court. Like, if he's in, he wants to be in. But I will say, it would be really strange if they played him. Like, I don't get it. I know he's the star and he's got power and stuff like that. And, you know, if he says like he wants to play, they probably just 99% of the time just say, okay, like he's playing, like whatever. But wouldn't this be like the one time where you're like, no, we're going into the playoffs. We just figured out Westbrook might not be with us for the first game or two or whatever. We need you healthy. Like, we can't let you get hurt. I just don't understand why they would run him out. But here's the thing. If you play Harden, right, and you lock him in that guard spot, or util if you're playing multiple guards, however you do it, because this is the late game. If he's out, then it's going to upgrade some other guys where you're just going to want to swap to them. Like, I think if he's out, I think Chris Clemons ends up seeing a ton of run. Chris Clemons is a guy who hasn't really gotten a ton of run in the bubble yet. I think the most he saw was like 13 or 15 minutes, something like that, one game. I think some people thought he might see minutes again against Indiana, and he really didn't see much. I think he saw 5, and I think he got off the bench for the first time in the second half. So he's someone, if Harden is to sit, who I would definitely have some interest in, because again, these guys like Ben McLemore, Austin Rivers, they'll play. But again, they're important to their run, especially without Westbrook. They need these guys. So I would expect, like I said, someone like Chris Clemons to get more run. Michael Frazier might get some more run. These are guys who don't see the court that much. But again, if Harden's out, that's who I would pivot to. Honestly, I wouldn't pivot to the Rivers or the McLemores, because I really think that they just kind of ease those guys too, because they're going to be in use during the playoffs, especially without Westbrook.
Yeah, and listen, like the one thing I'll say is, like, if Harden's out and people are like, oh, well, what can I do with my salary? Like, who cares? Again, salary doesn't matter today, and like you'll get Austin Rivers who will absolutely crush it. So I wouldn't worry about that, right? Like, you'll get these other guys will do really well. The one thing I will say, and maybe they play Harden, they actually play him today, I think, because of Eric Gordon, right? I think they realize they got to get Eric Gordon right, and he has not been good, and he's been struggling, I think, for a while, in my opinion. Do you think that could play into Harden maybe getting, that 25 minutes that way? He basically plays with Eric Gordon. Whenever Eric Gordon's out there, he's on the court just to kind of get him right, and then when Eric Gordon's done with whatever his minutes are, they just kind of pull the plug on Harden.
Yeah, I mean, they said and for the last game that Gordon would play somewhere between 20 and 25 minutes. It would make sense if they don't just rule him out, that they play him the same amount, probably 20 minutes again, just because if that's the case, they want to get him in better game shape, get his legs back under him. He's a shooter, and he's a streaky shooter at that, right? So, I mean, I could see where he's just not in great game shape yet. But again, he's another guy. He's going to have to play some really big minutes now. He was going to play some solid minutes in the playoffs anyways, because he's a key guy for them. But with Westbrook out, he's like one of their primary scorers after Harden. Like, he's their guy. So they can't risk injury with him either. And he's someone he's always banged up. Like, he always is banged up. So I just don't see how they risk these guys too much. But like you said, it would make sense for if Harden's playing, Gordon probably sees the floor because they want him to get in better condition. So that does make sense. I will say too, Harden's a lock if he's playing 20 to 25 minutes, because in 20 to 25 minutes, he can outdo all of these young, cheap guys playing 30 minutes, like 30, even 35. Like, he could still outdo it. I mean, the guy had a triple-double almost in the first half, I think, like, of the Indiana game. Like, it was something crazy like that. Like, the guy is an absolute fantasy monster. So, yeah, I mean, he's in play if he's playing.
Yeah, one last thing I want to mention, if you're planning that, like, the Rockets are going to play their guys, like, feel free to just capture Covington's raw points. It's okay. You can easily go to him later on instead of, like, a Kawhi Leonard. Just take the free, 25 to 30 points. It could obviously be higher. One last thing I'll mention, too, at the game is PJ Tucker. I don't know if you saw, he had an ankle injury, and he left the game. He never came back. The reason why, it was very precautionary, they said. But maybe they just want to be super cautious and not play him here, too. That would obviously bump Jeff Green a bit. It would help Covington and just keep his raw points even better. So, yeah, those Rockets guys, there's definitely some nice raw points value with them, and Macklemore, too. Tons of guys to like. Any final thoughts on this Rockets game, JSU?
Yeah, as I give my final thoughts, we're like 8 likes away from 125 right now. Hit that, or 7. Hit that thumbs up. Let's go. Let's get to 125. We want to give out some swag, but we're not giving it out if we get 117 or 118. We need 125. Mangone, I don't understand why they're going to run these guys out. They play them big minutes, very tight rotation in the playoffs, in the regular season even. I just don't get why they risk it. Like, why are you risking these guys on the last day of the regular season in the bubble? I just don't get it. But yeah, you're probably right. And if, they do probably end up running their starters out 20 minutes, 25 minutes, outside of maybe Tucker, who might, sit out just because of precautionary stuff. But I really don't get it. I don't get why all these teams aren't resting all of their starters. Honestly, let the bench guys play for once. Like, let them play big minutes. See what you got.
One thing I will always say, JSU, and I feel like I've fallen victim of it in the past, and I try not to fall victim of it, is I'm not the coach, right? So I'm not out there, like, don't be like, oh, they're not going to sit because I don't think so. Like, this is Mike D'Antoni. He's normally done it. Instead of saying, oh, I know what's going to happen, and I'm pulling it up actually right now while everyone's hitting that like button to get the subs, the free swag, I'm trying to see what happened last year, right? I'm trying to say, hey, last year, how many minutes did Harden get in the last game of the season? I can't remember off the top of my head if that game was a meaningful game. More than likely wasn't. So I'm pulling it up now. Looks like Harden played, he had 39 points in the game, so he clearly played. It was against OKC. Looks like all the guys got their normal minutes. So they kept a tight rotation. They didn't run out there Chris Chiozza, Shumpert, Kenneth Faried, or Gary Clark. Again, I can't remember off the top of my head. That's something you could research. That's something I can research right when I get off of the show. How are you doing, JC? What are our likes looking at?
Yeah, we're at 132, 133, so we're good. And James Young, he's in the chat. He's saying, pretty much like the reason why is because there was 4 months off from the NBA, and they're in horrible shape, and they need conditioning and experience and chemistry for these guys. And I'm not arguing that. I understand that reason, that side. What I'm saying is, with the Rockets playing such a tight rotation and they play their guys big minutes, and with their second best player, their star, out, I just don't understand why they would risk anyone else getting injured. That's why. Some of these other teams, I can understand that reason more, but for the Rockets specifically, I don't understand. I won't understand it. I don't get it.
All right, JCB, before we get on out of here, tell the people you tackle the playbook with AP at Run Pure Sports. If someone's in here and they're not a Run Pure Sports subscriber, tell them kind of like the stuff you do. You do the NBA core plays. Give them kind of a breakdown and landscape of the stuff you do here at Run Pure Sports on the NBA side.
Yeah, so I mean, me and AP kind of handle the playbook, and we get the rankings up, for all the tiers, high price, mid tier, low price. It's just a ranking system pretty much. And then AP goes game by game, and he does his game notes for each game. And that'll kind of lay out like what he's thinking for the game, and all the injuries, the people who are questionable, probable, out. Like, he lays all that out in the game notes, and he tries to stay up to date on that. And then at the bottom, there's a strategy piece. So there's a tournament strategy piece, which I handle. And then there's a cash game strategy piece, which Hoop handles, just to try and give you an idea of how we're looking at this slate for the playbook. And then we've got like our tiers rankings, which all of us pretty much are in: Big T, me, AP, Mangone, Hoop. I think one or two others maybe, but like we're in there. We give our favorite plays and our favorite pivots at each range. And then we give like, the slate breaker, who we're going to fade, a game to target. So, the content's really solid. It's very simple, I think, to apply, for newer people who are playing. And it really gives you an insight on who we're really focusing on targeting. And then the core plays, we all give like our top, 4 or 5 guys that we're going to plug in our main lineup. And it just helps and then you guys just build around those like 4 or 5 guys. Hoop does the cash core plays, and then me, Tony, AP have like a GPP core plays for FanDuel and Draftkings, and then I do a Yahoo core play as well. But that's pretty much it. So if you want to like follow, let's say you're a Big T truther, you want to follow Big T, he puts his core plays up, and that's like 5 guys he's going to have in his main lineup, which he puts in pretty much all the tournaments. It's the same thing with me, same thing with AP. So like, if you want to follow us and like what we do, the core plays are just very simple, because you plug those 4 or 5 guys in, and then you just build around that from there. And we're in the Discord answering questions. I try and get in there, with 30 minutes all the way up to lock right now. And I try and answer as many questions as possible. So, get in there, get in the Discord, the NBA channel. We're firing all throughout the day. But definitely before lock and when news drops, you definitely want to be in there in the Discord. So yeah.
Yeah, that was perfectly well said. Check that out. Grab someone in the chat. Who do you think should win the sub here, JSU? Or not the sub, the swag. Sorry, the swag.
And let's give it a little scroll. So James Young, what did he say? You picked him last time or something like that? What was that?
So I messed up. I basically on the MLB show, I said Joe Young, and then I tried to @ Joe Young, and like he didn't respond right away, and I couldn't find him. And then as I gave it away to someone else, he like responded. So I just told him to DM me, and I'll hook him up because I made a mistake.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll hook you up if you didn't get it. If Mangone was trying to be cheap, we'll just hook you up anyways. You can hit me up. We'll make sure you get it.
He already DM'd me, so you're good. I have it.
Good.
I saw it. He's in the clear.
All right, good. All right. I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure that was handled. James Young, he deserves his swag if he got picked. So I like that. Let's see. I'm going to give it the old scroll. All right. I landed on WV Hills.
There you go. WV Hills it is then. I don't think he has any swag yet.
If you have any swag, let us know in the chat, WV Hills. But if you don't, congrats to you. Hit us up. He's got the RPS logo. I mean, I would assume he's in the Discord.
He says he has. He said, yes, sir. I don't know. I guess that means he has it already. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I mean, if you haven't.
He hasn't yet. We're good. So
all right, perfect. We're good. All right. So WV Hills, hit up. You can either hit up Tony in the Discord, Big T, or you can hit up, at Run Pure Sports on Twitter, the main account, and we'll get you hooked up with some swag. So congrats to you. And guys, get over to Run Pure Sports. Check it out. Right now, if you sign up during this month, you'll get grandfathered in for life, I think, at 65 for the month. So get over there, check it out. And if you just want to try it out for like a week, I think it's $20 for the week or something like that to just try it out. So get over there, get in the Discord. Once you sign up, you got access to me, Mangone, Hoop, Big T, AP, all of us over there. Add us in the NBA channel. We'll help you out.
Yep. That's about it. That'll do it for us, guys. We gotta, finish some stuff. We gotta finish our lines. We gotta help you guys out as well in the Discord chat. But for me, Mangone, JSU, we gotta go join the movement. We're out of here.